First, though, Singapore has announced stricter measures to further minimize the spread of COVID-19. From Friday, all entertainment venues, including nightclubs, cinemas and theatres, will be closed. And while other public venues like malls and attractions can stay open, operators must reduce capacity and groups must not exceed 10 people. Centre-based tuition and enrichment classes as well as religious activities will also be suspended. Singapore residents and long-term pass holders returning from the US and the UK will need to serve their stay-home notices at dedicated hotels instead of at home. Let's get the latest from Li Ying. Li Ying, why the closure of entertainment outlets and why the 10-person limit for social gatherings?
Well, although the government has implemented stringent safe distancing measures last week, they are of the view that these measures are not being implemented quickly enough. In fact, what worries them is that they have heard anecdotal evidence that social gatherings are still happening, and in particular, they are happening in places like clubs, bars, pubs, places where, you know, it's very crowded, people are packed very tightly together, and because there is evidence of community transmission in Singapore right now, so there is a risk that these places could become a possible cluster. There is a risk that these places could result in a super spreader event. So that's why more stringent measures have been put in place to ensure that the virus does not spread widely within the Singapore population.
Li Ying, so why are enhanced measures being put in place for those returning from the United States as well as the United Kingdom, though?
Now, well, Glenda, if you look at the number of cases that Singapore has over the past few days, you will find that majority of them, really a large number of them, are imported cases from Singaporeans who have been to US and UK. And although the current stay-home notice arrangements have not been an issue, most people have abided by the guidelines and they have not passed on, the virus to their family members. There is still possibly the risk that, they pass a possible virus onto, their family members. That's why measures are being taken to house these people in hotels instead of, at homes.
Li Ying, you mentioned the increasing numbers. How is the government dealing with the increase of numbers of COVID-19 patients in hospitals?
Well, Singapore has expected a rise in these numbers, and to deal with these numbers and to make sure that the Singapore healthcare system is not overwhelmed, the government is going to send some milder cases of COVID-19 patients to what's called a community isolation facilities. Well, what they are is they are like repurposed quarantine facilities where people will be put in isolation, and those who are recovering from the COVID-19 infection and they do not need a lot of medical care, they need basic medical care, they'll be housed there they'll be housed there and they'll be tested to make sure they are not infectious before they can go home.
Okay, many thanks for that. Li Ying speaking to us from here in Singapore.